More states are passing right to repair laws, but are manufacturers living up to their responsibilities getting repair guides and parts out to consumers? In this interview, I sit down with Nathan Proctor at US PIRG, who's just published a new report on manufacturers supplying repair resources. Leaders and laggards too. If you're watching a channel like mine, this is right up your wheelhouse. We're talking phones, tablets, laptops, game consoles. Are the companies you buy making their products easier to fix? Let's chat. Nathan Proctor, thank you so much for joining me here.
Yeah, so great to be here.
I'm really excited to be doing this follow-up conversation with you. I had just an absolute blast talking to Lucas about the e-waste graveyard, and you know that's kind of a little bit more of a downer topic, right? How much waste is being generated. So I'm happy to have like kind of a follow-up conversation because we get to talk about a few wins.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, a couple of years ago, the right to repair might have been more of a downer conversation too, but over the last couple of years, we've been making tremendous progress. And I think a lot of it is due to just, kind of this whole online community around gadgets and gadget repair has really driven a lot of it. So I'm really grateful to folks like yourself and your audience who've continually engaged on this project with me for all these years. And, obviously shout out to other creators who've, like Lewis and everybody else has put in a ton.
It's like front of mind. I've definitely been drawing inspiration from him, but also like some other players out there like Hugh Jeffries. I think has been just an invaluable resource for properly dissecting, not just creating gadget destruction entertainment, but showing us what it really looks like. iFixit has been doing some wonderful work in this space too. Louis Rossmann obviously is one of the more spicier commentators in this space. But Nathan, just to kind of add you to that mind share, because I feel like PIRG, US PIRG, and all of the sort of state organizations do such a wonderful job of lifting up those players in these conversations, and I don't always feel you guys have enough of the back pat for yourselves.
I think of myself as, if you're a football fan, I think of myself as kind of like an offensive coordinator. So, I might be calling in plays from up in the booth, and sometimes the offensive coordinator gets a little bit of, oh wow, that double reverse,
right,
lateral.
What a bold move. Let's see how the strategy plays out.
That was pretty cool, and that broke the game open. But sometimes it's just like recognizing who your talented players are and putting them in a position to be successful, and combining the work that happens at the legislature with people. A lot of people don't know how to make an impact on laws because and so it's my job to be that kind of connective tissue between the interests of the community and how these things happen. I'm lucky to be working with so many people who have been willing to kind of take the coaching, right, and put themselves in a position to actually influence the legislation. And
to contribute to that idea, I feel like I spent a lot of time personally railing on social media, and that's not where decisions are made. It feels good to vent on Facebook and Twitter, but I'm curious, like your experiences over these last couple wins, where last couple of years, where we've started to see some of these wins. It seems to me that effective strategy is, we can try and have this nation-wide conversation. We can try and have a global conversation, and that starts to get so big that it almost creates this paralysis.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I don't know if I would say that complaining on social media is ineffective, but sometimes it's right. It's not directive enough, right?
Yeah.
I remember, the first time that Louis Rossmann broadcast like an entire hearing, like legislative hearing, on his YouTube channel, and it got like 600,000 views. The lawmakers in that hearing had never had as much exposure in the history of their entire careers online as that video got. People watched the entire thing and gave them feedback. Paul Feeney, who's a wonderful senator here in Massachusetts, was telling me he went to pick his kid up at daycare, and the guy who was totally apolitical was like, "I saw you did an awesome job in that hearing." He's like, "Oh my gosh."
That's great.
I do think that social media and the internet is really powerful. I just sometimes think that, you gotta you don't necessarily, you're not always picking the right inflection
Right.
points. Your local lawmakers, phone call in a meeting with your local lawmaker. One of the things that we had repair shops do and other enthusiasts do is either invite lawmakers to their shop and take them in the back and show them what they're doing, what materials they can get, what they can't get. And let me just, for those of you who aren't aware, like what Right to Repair is, right? Right to Repair is a campaign that's calling on manufacturers to give us what we need to fix the products that we use. And that's everything from toasters to tractors, even medical devices, even for the military. People need a basic set of things to fix electronics, parts, tools, information. Tools would include software tools. Manufacturers have long restricted, or kind of over the last 30 years, have really gotten into the habit of restricting our ability to access all those things, to make it so that we have to go back to the authorized service center to get any repairs, and they can set the prices without real competition, and they can also dictate when upgrades are necessary. And that's annoying. So a repair shop would just take a lawmaker into the back of the shop and, okay, this is the schematic. There's a sketchy site where I had to get this from. Here are the parts that I have. Here are the parts that I can't get. I tried to, these are my donor boards. I'm trying to get these. They wouldn't give it to me. And, those specifics, like, kind of giving the Hugh Jeffries video, where he goes to the details, but doing that with a lawmaker with their local repair shop, it changes their perspective on this forever. So being able to find opportunities for these people who are like complaining to complain to the right person in the right way.
Exactly.
I think that's been what I brought to this campaign. I think
that I feel has been the most tangible, when Louis Rossmann shows us an actual hearing and we see what the conversation resembles at a local level. And we go, well, I could have been in that room and I could have shared information. I'm a nerd. I know this stuff. Like, what they're talking about isn't reflective of what's going on. I feel like those moves have helped empower a more effective kind of conversation. Whenever we bring up politics and tech, it's this dirty word. I make funny videos about gadgets and phones and watches and tablets, and I'll mention something like, oh, I'm concerned about this, or e-waste that, and invariably I'll get a reply, oh, I just bring up politics in my tech. And you're like, but everything we do relates to other, every choice
especially
you make,
because
every gadget you buy.
There are tech CEOs and stuff who say, we will dominate the world by creating government ruled by our technology. Like, we're replacing government with the algorithms and the other systems that we build into this technology. So it's
okay
not,
if we occasionally contribute back to that conversation. And
absolutely.
I feel like your strategies and what you've been describing here have helped empower my ability to share that with my audience. It's difficult. I'm walking this fine line. I want to tell you about all the little giggle flips and megapixels in a new smartphone, but there's also just that little bit of medicine that you have to have with all this sugar. There's just this little idea that I hope I can leave you off with. And that idea has actually become so much more, audiences have become so much more receptive. I want you to have the best phone. You love it. This is great. But if your current phone's still working, maybe you could skip another year.
And doesn't it feel better as a creator to think that you're informing someone's decision that would be like a phone that they'll have for 6 or 8 years instead of 2 years? I mean, this is the longer these things last, the more important it is to get the phone that you really like and has the features that you really want. People really want durable, long-lasting, fixable products. Like, maybe there's some people who don't care, but if nobody cared,
people that are that cavalier now, right?
Yeah. I think, one of the things that we say, in the world of, social campaigning is like, step one is to win the people. Like, if people agree with you, that creates opportunities to make, kind of righteous change, right? You're not forcing manufacturers to do a thing. You're giving them wins, right? When Apple is launching their, better repair programs, people are like, enjoy that. They like feel like that's good. They're getting positives out of that. And the lawmakers are like more likely to be reelected because they voted yes on this bill. Like,
Right. And I also think it has like a trickle up effect. Like the companies that embrace that, I feel they're probably making more money,
yeah, it's
changing
hard
the
to make more
relationship with
money
the
than Apple made on the iPhone, which is, by the way, the most profitable product in the history
yeah,
of human commerce.
for sure.
So,
But even Apple is facing kind of the same trends that we see across the entire
yeah,
industry
yes, no,
where
I agree.
sales
And
are flatlining. And if you need to spice up something with your audience, there are some other avenues to squeeze out more profits that they could
right.
examine.
And the phones are designed to be way more, I mean, just the physical design has gotten so much more fixable. Not to mention that you can buy parts and tools for the iPhone that you could never buy before Right to Repair went into
Yeah.
effect.
I've been paying attention at sort of a like a federal, a national scene, and some of these smaller like state initiatives, I've just been catching up on. When I'm talking about a political situation at the national level, it can often pretty easily be defined in like liberal or conservative terms. Like if I'm talking about the FCC and regulations for broadband and net neutrality, that almost seems to be a coin flip, right? One side does this, the other side does that, and we're just playing ping pong every other presidential administration with the rules. But as I've been reading more on PIRG and as I've been following more of your state initiatives, a lot of this stuff is politically purple. There's broad support on both sides of the aisle. I'm leading us into this win that I don't think really got enough media attention was the right to repair wins in Texas, and not just passing, but passing with overwhelming support. Oh, you got the banner. You gotta catch the banner.
I taped it up to give myself a good thing, and then it didn't last. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Well, I believe you have the right to repair that sign.
Yeah, I'm just gonna lean my head against it, so it'll stay.
Looks totally cool. I'm just a cool dude leaning back. But I think that's really telling. We love being able to compartmentalize our politics and make it sound like it's us versus them, and that there's nothing we could possibly agree on. And then we get to a situation like this where it wins, and it wins big at the state
Yeah,
assembly.
I think these issues where it pits like the public against private special interest, and I think I'm just going to take this down so it doesn't
Oh,
distract
no
me
worries. Yeah,
anymore.
it was a good backdrop. It was like definitely
I'm trying to
appropriate
be a
for.
pro for you, JC. Or when I think about how these issues that play out, where it's a private special interest versus the public interest, this is kind of like the PIRG, public interest
Mhm.
research group. That's our mission. Like partisanship is such a gift to the powers that are like pitting the many against the few, right? Like
Yeah.
if you have like net neutrality, like if you can make that partisan, even though it's like a massive benefit for like nearly everybody if we had a policy like that versus just a couple, corporate executives and shareholders
Interests.
for
Yeah.
Verizon and Comcast or whatever. On the other side, it's clear what the public interest is. So if they can make that partisan, sometimes I feel like other campaigns and other efforts have really made some strategic mistakes by like just only talking to people who are like them and maybe come from the same kind of
Yeah.
perspective. And our win in Texas would have been impossible without the Texas Public Policy Foundation, which is a
Right.
conservative think tank and working really closely with PIRG, which is not, known as a conservative group by any means, right? Where you're kind of more on the other side of the aisle. I try to pick issues that I think everybody agrees with, but they had all the relationships, they had the credibility and the trust from the conservative lawmakers in Texas. And without the advocacy that they did on behalf of that bill, it wouldn't have passed. But
Yeah.
so some of these issues are kind of beyond partisanship in theory, but then you don't do it in practice. You have to then
The
live it
messaging
out in
gets
practice. You have to
exactly.
recruit the people who are affected, who are not necessarily just like you, and maybe have different opinions on a whole set of social issues than me or whatever, but they agree with me on right to repair. You got to get those people to stand shoulder to shoulder with you and work together, because that's when you can affect especially issues where there's a powerful super well resourced, giant multinational company who stands to gain from blocking you. Politics 101. This is winning politics. Find bigger coalitions that are stronger.
Very encouraging that we can see this kind of coalition come together in Texas. And that seems to be sort of the driving force between a lot of these state initiatives, where what you were mentioning, like agriculture and military, can move a lot of this. And then there's the tangential. It's almost like we kind of bring along consumer electronics and appliances for these other parts of the right to repair conversation too. It's this kind of like rising tide lifts all boats kind of strategy that seems to play really well at the state level while we're still trying to figure out what to do at the national level.
I mean, good luck passing a bill in Congress right now, for real, right? So it's just way easier to actually talk to lawmakers at the state level. It's not just, the big groups like TPPF in Texas that had an impact. There's like dozens of local repair shops. And at the state level, they just have more influence over what their state lawmakers think. If a local guy on Main Street in your Texas town calls you and says, "This is what I'm experiencing, you should really vote for this bill," it's different than, if you're calling your senator.
I'm sure this has got to be encouraging because I live in California and I feel Texas is a very similar market. Companies don't want to have 50 different rules for how they do business. So they look to New York, they look to California, they look to Texas, and those kind of set the standard for how they're going to do business in the rest of the country, even if some of the smaller states in the United States don't have exactly the same kind of legislation. So to me, this has to look like it's a big momentum push when Texas gets on board.
Yeah, we can use the enforcement mechanisms at the state level. Yeah. And so I recently did a report, Leaders and Laggards 2, and there's a story from a repair shop in Washington. And though we passed a bill in Washington this year, he issued a number of complaints to the Attorney General in California from Washington, even though they didn't have the right to repair yet, saying, hey, in California, you're supposed to be able to provide schematic diagrams and firmware and different things that I need to fix these products. And the manufacturer balked. Like, we don't provide, firmware to third parties. What are you talking about? Schematic diagrams. What are you doing? Fixing capacitors? That's impossible.
What is this, communist Russia?
Well, if you want to hear what happens in communist Russia, is like they take whatever they want to take from the manufacturer and nobody stops them. But, the Office of the Attorney General of California went to the manufacturer and said, well, actually, under this law, you actually do need to provide those things. These are the materials intended for and that facilitate the services of repair. You should give it to this repair shop. And they did. In total, like, you can solve these problems without necessarily, passing a law in Congress, but you really have to take advantage of, the laws that we have on the books now, which is kind of, one of our increasing focuses moving forward.
Well, and I'm glad you brought this up. I mean, the enforcement part of this is really critical because we say right to repair. I grant you can repair your gadget. I've still made a completely glued shut mess of an electronic. I don't need to give you anything to repair it, but I allow you to fix it. And I feel like some people feel like the hashtag activism, right to repair, that's likely what it means. We've gotten a little cynical. We don't have high expectations for this stuff. But the enforcement on a law is what really helps motivate some change. So I'd like to circle back. Like you mentioned this report, Leaders and Laggards. Break down for me a little bit. I'm going to share some screenshots from the website. This kind of goes hand in hand with my conversation with Lucas about the e-waste graveyard. It seems like we can affect policy through lawmakers, and we can also affect policy through public perception.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we did a score. So Leaders and Laggards has a couple different aspects. So the main part of it is we did basically a broad survey of companies and whether or not, if you went to them and asked for the manual or the spare parts, would they give it to you? And then what was basically how many parts and what kind of manual was it? Was it like an actual service manual, or was this kind of like, a reduced version? It's crazy. Like, I had a piece a while ago where a friend of mine, Paul, broke his a Fitbit, and a radio from the 1950s in the same day. And he went online and he got the complete circuit board for the KLH radio with the flow chart and, you know, the diagram of the things. He was able to figure out that there was a fuse embedded into the power supply that he replaced for like 30 cents. And then they went to the Fitbit, and the only technical diagram available was like how to do the clasp. And you're like, this is we've just dumbed down we have zero expectation that people are smart or capable, and manufacturers love to insist that no one will ever do this. And it's like, okay, well, let's see.
Right.
But so yes, so some of these manuals did not score well. You know, so we graded 25 products officially through the scorecard. You know, of those products, about a third received an A, 32%, whereas 40% received a D or an F. The rest received B's or C's. And, you know, so we could not even get anything that we would consider a repair manual for 48%, so nearly half. And then 44% had 0 spare parts for sale. Right to repair, you know, maybe it's a misnomer. Maybe it really should be means to repair, but, you know, whatever. Right to repair is definitely sells a little bit better, but, you know, it really is like, can we have the stuff that we need so that repair is possible, and can it be available so that there's a competitive repair market? So DIY repairs is possible. An independent repair shop can offer the repair services even maybe for less than the manufacturer, or even, as is the case with many things, like if you're Apple, like a really high level technician, there's no way to do that at the scale that Apple runs on, right? There are technicians who do microsoldering through microscopes to remove tiny chips on the super compact iPhone and iPad motherboards, and there's just no way to do that at scale. It's a very, you know, but like you can make a killing doing memory recovery as a repair shop, but you need access to the schematics. Right. So how do we make sure that there is those possible repairs? That's what the law is trying to do. And trust me, there are not a lot of schematics even with these laws. So we have to continue to push so that it's not just that we want laws on the place so that we can attaboy PIRG or whatever. Like, we want people to be able to fix their stuff. You know, leaders and laggards is just a way for us to catalog, well, how are we doing with getting access to the things we actually need? And it's a total mixed bag. There's obvious signs of progress. You know, we've mentioned Apple a couple of times. How could you not in this conversation? They've gotten way better. They're still short on schematics. We love, but like some of these companies, like you call them up and ask for a manual and they're like, what? A manual? What are you talking about? No way. You know, we have to keep pushing. Some of that is working with enforcers like the attorneys generals in those states. Some of it is just like pushing hard to bring it to the attention of these companies so that they know they have to actually make a plan here. But it's obvious that is the next step. Like, if we want to be able to fix more of the stuff in our lives, we need to use these laws, leverage them, pain points on these companies so that we can get access to what we need.
Now, for my audience, I'm really stoked because a lot of this is up our wheelhouse. A lot of the products that you've selected, phones, tablets, laptops, game consoles. That was really, really cool to see some of that breakdown. I was a little curious. There was only one appliance in the mix for the chart that was published.
Yeah, we actually did research on a lot more products. It's just very difficult to take the methodology and make it universal across all these different, like, they're very different in how these companies set these things up. Do you consider this a manual in this industry? So we actually we ended up taking these products because we actually could compare them. Like, there was enough similarity. But there's a lot of other products that we took a look at and are, you know, in really bad shape on the things that we scored, right? So wearables, Bluetooth speakers. It was interesting, like, you know, for example, this didn't end up in the report, but like, if you have Yamaha sound equipment, the Yamaha resource page is unbelievable. The amount of diagrams and individually, you know, skewed components across the entire product at a very granular level, and you can buy all of it, and the prices are very affordable. So like, next time I need a new guitar amp, maybe I'll buy a Yamaha or something, because I was just really, really impressed with that. And the reason why we looked into that equipment was because there was a 12-year-old Nuri in Colorado who testified at our hearing on the bill that we won in Colorado last year. that he's like, he loves fixing electronics, and he's in like 6th grade, and they had all these broken audio equipment in his school music department, and he fixed like a bunch of these old amps and things like that, so they could use them. But then he ran across the kind of the newer stuff, and he was blown away by just like how, like, for his 1982 amplifier, he could get everything. Like
Right.
he could do anything. He could rewire the whole thing. And sometimes the damage is just like, like a mouse lived in the back of the thing and like dirtied up all
Yeah.
the contacts or whatever. But the new stuff, he couldn't get anything. So he told this story to
Yeah.
lawmakers, and I was curious as to how this industry does. And so there's a lot more of the things like that we've done in Leaders and Laggers that we want to come out with. We might have to take it in smaller chunks,
Hmm.
because like looking across like 200 products ends up being just like too hard to make a consistent
Overwhelming.
methodology. We're not leaving anything out. Like, people should be able to fix their stuff. We bought it, we paid for it, it's our
Yeah.
stuff. And the laws, will be enforced, or the manufacturers will, fix these problems without, going down that route. And and to me, the goal is just like, yeah, we're gonna, like, we fought like hell for these new laws, these new protections, and we're not gonna. The job isn't over till people can actually do the repair work that they're
Right.
seeking to do.
So in this list, was there anything that you found kind of surprising? Oh, I really thought this company was going to come through, but then we got there and they whiffed it. You went
Yeah,
in with an
there's a
expectation, but
couple, right? Because Motorola was the first of the major cell phone companies that would sell you OEM parts directly, and nothing for the phone that we
wow.
like. It was, they got an F, for the Razer Ultra 2025 in our scorecard. Unsurprisingly, like Amazon's tablet got, that was like the least surprising thing ever, that that product got an F. Pretty sure they don't fix anything.
Well, I want to say like on this list there are only a couple hard, not only like no manual comments, no parts, a total grade of an F, but does the manufacturer offer an authorized repair option? It's like one of the only no's. It's like they don't even put up the token, give it to us
Yeah.
and we can maybe try to fix it. They're not even
Yeah, they
pretending.
they just don't have repair, and technically under the law says you have to give us whatever materials you have. But
So
if the
they just don't
materials
have
don't
any
exist,
materials.
I think that's information consumers need to know too. I mean, we've been hearing from, especially tablets is a good example, because some of them are just completely unfixable. But was it the Microsoft tablet? Let me look at the report. Like, yeah, the Microsoft tablet, and the Samsung tablet, like, they had very good
Yeah.
material support for those products. And so it's like, yeah, well, if Microsoft can make a fixable tablet, why can't you? Like in
Yeah.
consumers, if you're buying a tablet and you're like, well, I want it to last a while, I want it for my kids to, watch Some Gadget Guy on car trips or whatever, and don't buy one that you can't fix. Don't buy one from a
Yeah.
company that isn't going to let you fix it, or has no way to support it. How can we improve the transparency? Nobody goes into the Best Buy and thinks, I'm just going to buy something totally disposable. But look around, you
Well,
don't know what things are built to last and what things aren't. And I
well,
think that a lot
do you
of consumers
feel
struggle with that.
do you feel like that actually has become a kind of a part of the marketing though? So when I'm looking through a lot of these scores and I'm looking through a lot of these grades, consumers have been trained to have an expectation that a computer is a box that you can open and a laptop should last longer than a phone or a tablet. So parts should be fixable on a laptop because that's a computer. But then you get to something like a tablet. When I hear people like, yeah, I got my kid an Amazon Fire tablet because I know they'll destroy it and it's cheap. That's kind of ingrained. Like our phone does phone things and phones last 2 years because that's how long my contract used to last.
Yeah.
And tablets do tablet things, and kids and old people don't need nice tablets, so we just get them the cheap disposable things. Like it's almost become ingrained in a part
Yeah.
of that. But if you go to someone and say like, "Oh, your MacBook is only going to last for 3 years and then you got to throw it away," there would be outrage. But they're all computers. They're all computing devices.
The fact is, like, even the products that we are used to fixing, we're struggling to fix now. Like,
Yeah, true.
but every time they introduce a new technology, like we went from tube TVs to CRT to now flat screens. Someone posted in one of the repair Slacks, like the 7-Eleven ad where you could go to 7-Eleven and test your television vacuum tubes, and
Wow.
figure out which ones were on the fritz. Like people just regularly switch the tubes in their televisions. And the things that go bad on flat screen TVs are like parts of the power supply or the motherboard.
Yeah.
And those are totally proprietary. And so you can't just buy a generic motherboard for your television. If Sony's not going to sell it to you, where are you going to get that? But honestly, replacing a motherboard on a Sony television is less complicated than replacing the vacuum tubes on an old school TV. It's just like plug and play.
Sure.
There's an aspect of when they put a new technology in, they can make it seem magical, and they can obscure just how normal repair should be for that product. And then also, like, usually the rate of innovation for like a new type of product, like the smartwatch or something that becomes like, oh, the smartphones weren't a thing, and now they're like the most popular device in the world. A couple generations of smartphones were like every one was an enormous improvement.
For sure.
And I think in that environment, like, people were like, they wanted the new ones because they were so much better. But now the improvement's like, oh, it has AI, and you're like, you don't want it. It's
I
like,
don't care.
there's another camera, and I'm like, I don't really take pictures, all that. I mean, it's like some people are going to want those things, but it's less and less like an imperative. But the companies love the money for like rapid replacement so much that they try to ride that as long as they can. At some point, it becomes clear that
and against consumer desire too. The lobster pot effect has definitely cooked a lot of our electronics. When smartphones were becoming a thing, they were built similar to regular cell phones, where you could pop the faceplate off, you could completely customize the device, you could easily, swap out a battery. You think about like an old candy bar phone. That thing was modular, and it was like constructed with 2 screws. And our early smartphones were very much built like that because that's what we were familiar with. But now you get to things like you were saying, fitness trackers and Bluetooth earbuds and Bluetooth speakers are now kind of being informed by the current trend in phones, where, hey, we got rid of that repairability. We got rid of that consumer access. You can't pop the battery out of your phone easily now. And consumers were mad, but they kept buying phones. So I guess we can do this now when we go into watches and earbuds and speakers and everything else.
It's incredibly profitable to tie the life of a product to the sealed-in battery, and unless we kind of rebel against it, they'll just keep doing it. But we are rebelling against it.
I got to say, just because I want to be respectful of your time, and I know we budgeted a little time, and I had some technical issues that dragged us out a little longer. I was very surprised on the gaming side. I own a Steam Deck, and I adore what Valve's strategy was for getting accessory manufacturers on board. Like, literally, before it had launched, you knew everything that was going on inside that Steam Deck. I was very pleased to see Asus in that list with a good A- on the ROG gaming system that you have on this list. I've done a lot of work with Asus in the past, and I believe them when they say they really take their manufacturing seriously. I was very surprised by the results you had with MSI and with Sony. That these are other 2 juggernaut names in gaming, and my expectation would be like, oh, it's Sony, PlayStation, it's a living room computer. I should be able to gut that box and fix it and do anything I need to. And apparently, PlayStation 5 Slim not doing so great.
Especially because the lobbyists for these industries have said to lawmakers all over the country, they've got exemption. They've been exempt from many state bills, and they say it's because, oh, well, our stuff is totally fixable. We don't need this. And so I've been hearing, I mean, the Nintendo Switch 2 is probably going to cause some problems for the whole industry, because people are pretty upset by the amount of restriction, especially like they're going to brick the device if they don't like how you handle it. I feel like they're pushing the line too far. Right? If you don't want lawmakers to have to pass legislation to make people fix these products, like, you should just post manuals and sell the spare parts. Every repair shop I know fixes HDMI ports on gaming consoles. Every single, like, if you're not doing that repair, you're like missing out. That happens all the time. Like, your little brother knocks the thing off the thing and screws up your HDMI port. So, I don't want to go back and pass a law, but Like, we can't fix these things right now.
When you like a company and you like a brand and then you say, oh, it got a good grade on that. Okay, I feel like
You
it's
know,
okay that I've been saying nice things about that product.
this is not the only criteria by which to judge companies, but you know, I do hope everyone gets to be more fixable so I can like everything more.
Exactly. Again, we want everyone to benefit from this. So, Laggards and Leaders 2, that's published on the US PIRG website. I have to believe that you guys are already looking at follow-ups with the
Yeah.
data that you already have. Are you
Mm-hmm.
looking at sort of adding to this list, or will it be kind of like episodic, like Laggards and Leaders 3, 4, 5? The Revenge of PIRG, is that going to
Yeah,
be
right,
the
right, right. Well, the Empire has to strike back, and then the return of the Purg will come in the third chapter. I think that we're working. It's a work in progress. We definitely want to figure out a way to increase the transparency for the public and to create as many incentives for manufacturers to support repair as we can. And this is obviously part of us figuring that out. And then Leaders and Laggards 1 was able to get a bunch of digital camera repair materials out of some manufacturers. And so I'm hoping that we'll improve dishwasher repair, we'll improve some of these tablet repair places where the scores were low, and we'll continue to, get better and better. I mean, I definitely think with all the products that we have, this is going to be iterative. But we're on the case.
The last time I got to speak with Lucas, with folks at US PIRG, the e-waste graveyard is something that we can point to, and we all have this like eulogizing, like, oh, the killed by Google graveyard and the e-waste graveyard, and those things are already dead. They're done. This looks like it's a living, breathing document that can affect change, and we can do things moving forward.
I'm confident that this will continue to get better. Like, I'm under no, what's the phrase?
Like under no illusion that
Under no
yeah.
illusion, yes. I'm under no illusion that this will happen without some effort, like somebody making a push to start. You have to complain in the right way, and so we're looking to figure out exactly how to make that as easy and replicable as possible.
Nathan, again, thank you so much, and thank you for going a little longer because I know we had budgeted some time here. Where can folks find some more information on what PIRG is doing and the initiatives that you guys are supporting?
Yeah, I mean, pirg.org is our website. Sign up for the newsletters. You can find me on X at nproctor. I think I'm a good follow. And yeah, just give us a shout and we'll be in touch.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I look forward to having some future conversations. Hopefully we can follow this up.
Yeah, it's been a real blast, JC. Take care.